All right, so you look at the offense for the Oklahoma Sooners, and the chronic part of the offense that has been causing Oklahoma a lot of pain, it's the wide receivers. And we got some news this week. Listen, it's not the most settling news. If you're an Oklahoma fan, it doesn't make you feel any better about the offense. But, hey, the offense might get a little bit better. Jay's here to keep me from jumping off a ledge and getting a little too crazy. Jay, how you doing today?
It's Friday, and I'm glad that the week is about over. Actually, it is over. That's the good thing.
Yeah, and we get a week of college football where we don't have to stress about Oklahoma winning a football game. We get to watch all the other fan bases lose.
And just enjoy it.
Yeah, we get to enjoy it. But I want to talk about this because Matt, and I believe it's Zients with 247 Sports. Zenitz? He's with 247 Sports, and he revealed some news that might. Hey, listen, it's a little unsettling if you're an Oklahoma fan and you're wanting the offense to get a little better. Talking about how it's feared that Oklahoma star wide receiver Nic Anderson could miss several more weeks as he continues to work back from a quad injury. And this also comes on the heels of understanding that Jalil Farouk's probably not going to be back till late in the season or maybe at all this season. Andrel Anthony doesn't look like he might play. Deion Burks is out, maybe for a couple more weeks. So you look at this wide receiver room for Oklahoma, plagued by injuries. Again, I'm going to use the word chronic because that's what it's been for the offense. It's been the chronic problem. How does it get better from here? Because I was kind of pointing it out in the Discord earlier, but I said, if Oklahoma beats Texas, I think you have a real shot at beating Ole Miss at that point. And you go in 8-1 against Missouri. If one of these guys are healthy, I felt like you had to play them, but you kind of, went against me on that. And you made some good points there. So let's talk through this, right? Like, what does Oklahoma have in the wide receiver room, and why would you not want to play these guys this season if you're in a position at 8-1, potentially now vying for an SEC championship spot?
Yeah, you're first and foremost. If the players aren't back now and we don't have a timetable of them coming back, like with Matt here, the expectation is that there's a good chance that, that Nic Anderson could miss several more weeks. The critical thing in this entire statement is that he could miss several more weeks. So there's no timetable. If there's no timetable, we don't know. We won't know until it actually comes down the line. And so my thought is that if this is a re-injury to a previous injury that held like Nick out the beginning of the season, you can't bank on him coming back and then being fully healthy without the fear of that injury being recurring again, right? If it's a quad injury, those typical soft tissue problems don't go away easily. It usually takes time. The healing process for that is rest. And depending on the severity, it could be months of rest, right? I went and looked up a few different type of injuries you could have around there, from hamstrings to quads to tendons to knee situations. And it's months, right? And so since we don't know the extent of what this injury actually is, that's not something you could bank on. You can't bank on him coming back at all until you see him on the football field.
Well, I mean, let's just assume the worst. If it's a torn quad, which is, I'm assuming, the worst that you could have as a quad injury, is that keep you out for the rest of the season, or could you potentially return?
I said when I looked up that torn quad, or like quad tendon, something in that realm, is like 4 months at least. So yes, you're done. You're cooked. That is February at best.
And if it's a bruising of the quad, are we thinking just a couple weeks?
That's probably a couple months, right? That's probably December-ish. So if he was to be back, it would potentially be closer to playoffs. But if he hasn't been able to run or, get the cardio game up, do you want him to play?
Yeah, because at that point,
more of a liability.
There's a lot of rust and things like that.
Exactly. There's a lot more of a liability there with his health than doing that. Luckily, Nick is a redshirt sophomore. He can come back next year, and you can take advantage of him as a redshirt junior out there cooking folks. But right now, it sounds like there's no diagnosis here. It just says quad injury. We don't know what it is. It's between hamstring and the actual quad to the groin. Like, it could be anything in that thigh. We don't know what the injury is. So at that point, you can't You can't rely on it at this point. Let's just put it that way. Try to probably find the simplest way of saying it. You can't rely on it, and I wouldn't even bank on it at all. I would focus on what you have in your room today. Luckily, a lot of the wide receivers worked with Michael Hawkins when they were all part of the second team. And Hawkins is showing us that, he's progressing. He's gotten better week over week. He's thrown more. He's been more decisive. And luckily with the bye week, more things can be installed, and I can totally see him and the wide receivers working together, preparing for Texas.
Yeah, now taking a look at what they have in that room, because I think this has probably been one of the more intriguing things when you talk about the offense as a Michael Hawkins standpoint, because Jackson Arnold all offseason was throwing to a Nic Anderson, an Andre Anthony, right? A Jalil Farouk, a Deion Burks. All of his guys are out. These are the guys that Michael Hawkins was throwing to. So you look at a Brennan Thompson, a J.J. Hester, a Jaquez Petaway, right? Which one of these guys do you think is the X factor and needs to step up outside of Deion Burks? Because I think we all expect Deion Burks to be back at some point this season.
Honestly, the ones that need to step up and ones that did step up, J.J. Hester, right? Your Brennan Thompsons of the world, your Jaquez Petaways. You need to get those three guys really going because they're going to be your key components in wide receivers for now. JJ showed us something. He gave us something last week. 3 catches, 86 yards, and that deep 60-yard bomb, which Michael threw it 50 yards. Goodness gracious, the dude threw it 50 yards. Like, that's what you're working with. And honestly, if Michael can keep them going, and then Bauer Sharp across the middle, Jake Roberts across the middle, leveraging those tight ends in the middle or in the flats. I mean, heck, when he got Bauer Sharp, and we would have disguised the pick a little bit better, Bauer caught it and was gone. You can get a lot of that out of Bauer going forward. So you got to take advantage of that, right? Then your running backs, looks like, BV mentioned Taylor Tatum looks like he can make his return. And if he comes back from whatever he had and he's good to go, that's another big one, right? So for them, it's going to be focusing on what you have today. And I think we have to, Jaquez Petaway was a top 100 player coming out of high school, right?
He was a top 50 player.
Right, there you go. You had with J.J. Hester, unfortunately he dealt with injuries ever since he came from Missouri. But now that he's healthy, we got to see that speed against Auburn, against their best corner. He ran right past him.
And he's got the size.
He did a step inside, and he just ran straight. He's a 6'4" dude, runs a 4.40.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That was what he was running when he was healthy. Now it looks like he's back at that, and he's excited. I listened to his interview. He was hyped that he's been able to get back out there and actually play. Yeah, that's what you want. And that's all you can do is focus on that portion of it.
Yes. So Oklahoma's got some answers at the wide receiver position. The question is, how quickly can they implement it, especially with the change at quarterback and potentially Seth Luttrell's playbook? So, Jay, appreciate you coming on, breaking it down a little bit, kind of talking through it a little bit. Sure, so OU fans saw that from Matt on Twitter, and we're kind of confused about it and what that could potentially mean for Oklahoma. So hopefully that settles the dust. We'll just have to see if Nic Anderson's able to even be back next year, right? If he comes back next year with a Jalil Farouk, this wide receiver room could be, and Jaden Gibson, this wide receiver room could be absolutely dangerous. So
it could be insane if everybody's healthy. It could be really insane.
Could be the year for Oklahoma.
Could be. And that was a year that a lot of us circled, right? We said that will be the year we would look at. That's definitely one to check out.
Yes. All right, Jay. Well, where can everybody find you at?
Hey, find me here on YouTube, on Fair Sports, as well as whatever podcast or download and listen to. You can also find me at Locked On Sooner. So thanks for having me, PJ.
Well, thanks for coming on. If you guys made it this far, make sure you hit that like and the subscribe button.